So usually I don't make any videos where I talk, but this time I wanted to make a video just to show how to improve a double hammock, especially once your baby is asleep. As you can see, his head is not very well supported, and you can see some issues that I hear people often talking about. You can see the asymmetrical legs, like one knee is up higher than the other. He's a bit loop-sided. It's just the overall slack here at the top rail, and this diagonal pass not being up very high over the back. Of course, ideally this would be something that you fix when you are wrapping, but when your baby is asleep, their muscle tone also changes. So often once they're falling asleep, you still have to adjust the tension to support the upper back or the back of their head, just to make sure this head won't be dangling like this. So now I just open the nuts and I still make sure to keep tension on both shoulder straps. This one is under this pass, so it's easier just to stand on it. If you stand on the strap, it's always better to cross your legs, just for your pelvic floor muscles. And now, just to correct here, oh, maybe we should just start with correcting the loop-sided knees. To do this, I need to add some slack into the carry, just to be able to move him a little bit. I will keep tension on both straps by putting them under my feet or between my knees, and then I bend forward and wiggle just to make sure that he's seated symmetrically. And now I go back to tighten the carry. As you can see, this is my top layer, so I just make sure to start with the bottom layer first. There's not much room for tightening here. What I like to do is to make sure the bottom rail goes up underneath all the other fabric. And if you go in here, you should be able to feel that it's still at the knee. Just go through the fabric, pull everything through. And then I put my feet on this one, or put it between my knees, cross my leg, and now I can go and adjust the tension here all the way to the end of the tail. As you can see, his hand is here, but as long as it's not bothering him, it's okay. Just if you see me putting tension on here and suddenly see his hand. So the first thing I do is follow the bottom rail along. And this is also often where one knee ends up higher than the other, because if you lift it here, you automatically lift this knee, and it doesn't happen at this side. So just try to make sure you don't move the knee, but you just follow along. So the first thing I do is just to follow the bottom rail along, make sure I don't pull this knee up higher than the other one, but I just want to make sure there's tension on the bottom rail. And it should be from knee to knee, or almost knee to knee, depending on how big your baby is. And then the fabric goes from knee to knee in a straight line with tension on it. So don't feel like you need to stuck any fabric between you and your baby with slack. It should really be tightened. And then I gather the fabric up here. I prefer to, again, bring the bottom rail close to my neck. And now you can see there's no support in the upper part, which is why his head starts dangling. And if you want to bring this pass up high over the back, it's easier when you work far away from your body. So depending on how long your wrap is and how bendy you are, of course I can go very close to my body and just pull the fabric over here, but if I move it away, there's less friction, and I could even use my elbow just to move it over, because this part, the bum, is the part that's sticking out, so you need to make sure you go over the bum and then over everything else. And if you're doing this, you can bring the slack around, and even if you now pull here, because of the friction, it's still being stuck here. So if you just make sure you create less friction by either using your elbow or moving further away from your baby's back. So now I'm just again trying to tighten the top rail, and I make sure I bring it as far as I can go, and then pick up from there by just wriggling like you would with a towel, for example. So now both straps are tightened. And the reason why I prefer to have one under the chest belt and one over is just because it helps to keep this one in place. And if you make a twist here, it also helps to keep tension. What I often see people doing is the other type of finish where you just cross them. So now you can see the one that comes from the right shoulder goes to the left side, the one from the left shoulder goes to the right side, but this doesn't add anything for your tension. So what I like to do is just to make sure you twist here, and then the one from the right shoulder goes to the right side, the one from the left shoulder goes to the left side. And you can even just pull again, and then I go over and back under. Of course you can just tie a knot in the back if you feel confident and your wrap is a bit shorter, but this is why I like to use a longer wrap. Of course you can also use one of the passes to support the back of their head, but looking at this side, it's very hard for me to use a pass to cover the back of his head because it's easier with the one that's on top. So I would need to turn his head. I will just try to add some extra support in the head. But I also don't want to over tighten it and pin his head. I just follow along and bring the slack, you can see, towards the back where it goes under the other strap, and back to the front where I can just open the knots and pull it through. And that's it. That's a double hammock. If you just make sure that you stand up straight when you tighten the wrap, it should be more tight than when you're leaning forward. And I don't know if you've ever seen any successful transfer videos, like transferring the baby from a back carry to the bed, and hopefully they will stay asleep. In this case, I just make sure to keep tension on one of the straps. Slowly bring the other one down. And pick up here. Where I try to keep them tight, because it's the loss of tension that often makes them wake up. Then I try to move him forwards, just by sliding. And for demonstration purposes, I will put him on the floor. Normally I would put him on the bed. And what I try to do is to just put him down with his bottom first, and then try to move his body like he would if he could. So if you can, just prop up the legs a little bit, because that's often what wakes them up, if their feet don't touch the floor, or if their legs suddenly are straightened. So if you just put the baby down on the bottom first, and then either roll them over their side towards their back, and then keep some pressure on the front too, just that they don't lose the contact suddenly, and then hope they won't wake up. And now I will try to put him back in the wrap. Not sure if it will work. Okay, now, so I want to put him back in the wrap, just because, I don't know, he's asleep and we need to go pick up the other kids from school. In this case, you need to decide if you want your baby to be in the front or if you want your baby to be in the back. Usually, because of his weight, I wear him in the back, but I know a front carry is easier to avoid waking him up, because it's often the hip scoot that's causing too much movement and makes him wake up. So I will just try and see what's working. So as you can see, I just tied a front wrap cross carry, which is like a basic carry in the front, using a long woven wrap. And now when he's asleep, I might want some extra support because he's pretty heavy, or if it's cold, I would prefer to spread the layers just for some extra support. And what I like to do when I spread the layers is just make sure you get lift the bum and you get that top part here. So this is the perfect time to talk about shoulder flips and why I prefer to make a closed shoulder flip like this. This helps to keep tension on the top part because, as you can see, the other fabric lays over this. So just put some extra pressure on here to help to keep this in place. What you often see is people just spreading this wrap and then pulling away from the shoulder outwards. This is what you call an open shoulder flip because you open the shoulder up. And of course this also adds some tension right here, which is what you want because now you have all the slack here. So this is how you solve it. It also helps to keep it open at the face because you don't want their face to be covered. If you want to cover the back of their head, that's okay, up to the ear. But just make sure the face is visible and they can breathe. You also get people who pull this one away and up. You can do a combination of both, like pulling this first, then the bottom one, which also helps to keep it in place if you want a more narrow shoulder type instead of this capped shoulder, which of course limits your arm movement. If you want to reach high up, this will be in place. What you can do is just fold it over and over until it's up on your shoulder, and then you have your arm movement back. But as you can see, I've twisted this one right here, which ends up with a twist in the back too. I will just show it again. By bunching them again. And untwisting the shoulder. So because of the colors, you can see this is the top rail, which should be closest to my neck and both sides on the shoulder strap. And this is the bottom rail, which is over here. Same goes over here. So what happens when I just spread it normally? I'll just show with this one. So if I spread it in this way with the top rail at the top and then go ahead and make the shoulder flip, you will also have the flip in the back. Even if I go under to make a closed shoulder flip, it will still end up with the twist in the back. So to avoid this twist, I want to go in and grab the bottom rail to become the upper rail. It's very hard here at the bottom to decide which is the bottom rail, which is why I prefer starting at the top, but of course you can start here at the side where you can still see it if you have a mirror. But if you're not close to a mirror, it's easier just to follow along from here. And now you can see I have a twist here, but no twist in the back. Same goes for the other side. I can just follow along from here, lift the bum, so now I have my baby in front carry, but as he's asleep and I know we will still be walking for hours, I want to move him to my back. I'm not sure if he will stay asleep, but we will see, as he has already been sleeping for a while, so he might just wake up, especially when you're scooting towards the back. That's quite a lot of movement. So what I do is just opening the knot, and I try to keep tension on the carry. So what I do is just to try to keep tension on it, just check which one is on top, as the one on top can go down. So I just want to get this as neat as possible, get a nice tension in there to avoid him waking up. So now he's on my back, and of course I need to decide which carry I want to do. And for me this usually means doing a double hammock carry. And for a double hammock carry you just start like this. One strap will be over your shoulder, one strap goes under. I already tightened the one that's on my shoulder, and then I just bring this one around that keep tension on the bottom rail. I don't bother too much with the top. Of course it's nice if it's tight, but the bottom rail is there to hold my baby, so that's quite important. So now I just want to go through and tighten this final pass. I bring around as much leg as possible. Bring the fabric away from his back to tighten it. I really try to get this one in the knee and then pull it up right here. As you can see, this is still quite low, and I prefer it to be a bit higher and tighter. So I just try to move the fabric away from his back again to snug it around. And now it's quite nice and snug. Try to stand up straight again when tightening. And to keep the tension on here, create this twist. And then I go to the back where I can either tie a knot if my wrap is very short and my baby doesn't straighten their legs often to get out of it, or I go over and back under towards the front and make a knot right here. And then you can go in and adjust right here at the shoulders. Check if the fabric is still in place. If you cross the passes, you can make sure to go over this fabric here just to pin it in place, and then check if your baby's still asleep.